type of crime than your typical one-day event. You know, yes, he was a great guy in certain other aspects of his life perhaps, but he was living a lifestyle of these crimes. It's very different from a defendant who appears in front of a judge who had one bad day, right? Got robbed one person, got into a fight with one person and stabbed that person. This was a lifestyle.
Okay, another update. Judge says, we saw the video. The free game course in the MDC, the court hopes you continue to expand it. You are devoted to your family. The court, of course, considers the collateral consequences. The court has to consider all of your history here. And when that's true, by the way, the factors to be considered in imposing a sentence are and this is, I'm looking at the statute, the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history and characteristics of the defendant, the need for the sentence to be imposed, the kinds of sentences available, the kind of sentence and the sentencing range, any pertinent policy statement, the need to avoid unwarranted sentence disparities among defendants. So, just looking for an update here. Okay. A history of good works can't wash away the record in this case. You abused these women. You used that abuse to get your way. Freak-offs and hotel nights. The evidence of the abuse is massive. I was sitting right here during the testimony. Joe, this isn't good for Sean Combs.
No, it's not good for Sean Combs because he started off with good stuff and he says, but on the other hand, you know what I mean? Because to my mind, I mean, it could be different, but a lot of times you start off with the part, not with the part that you're going to end with. You know what I mean? Here's the good news, but here's the bad news, and here we are because of the bad news, as opposed to here's the bad news, and here's the good news, and here's where we are because of the good news. I think the order of things may dictate that, you know, he's going to come at him, and it's not going to be a low-end type sentence.
Sierra, this is very consistent with what we talked about before, where that video was being played of Sean Combs, where you look at his history of helping others, you look at his works in the community. You and I had talked about it. The argument would be, yes, but at the same time he was committing crimes. Or after his apology video for Cassie, he was accused of committing crimes. It seems that the judge is being consistent with this, and I apologize if I have to cut you off if the judge says something, but your thoughts?
No, please do cut me off because I want the updates as much as you do, Jesse, and so do our viewers. But I think it's confusing here, right? But two things can be true. Diddy can have all the love in the world for his children, and he can be a great dad to them. But on the other side of the coin, he did commit these acts, and it is violence. And I think the thing that was most telling to me from what we've heard. All right, let's hear that update, Jesse.
Sierra, I'm going to throw it right back to you, but this is the judge. This was subjugation. That is the reality of what happened. These offenses irreparably harmed two women. You plied them with drugs. Why did it happen so long? You had the power and resources to keep it going. You were more than a John. Again, Sierra, it was the idea of this happened so many times. I said I think that was something the judge was going to consider here.
And what he said very specifically is that I was sitting right here. I heard the testimony. And I think that is what is so vital when we were talking about the way that the judge was going to end up with all of this sentencing, is the fact that this wasn't today he decided it. It wasn't in the 3 months that he had to go through and read all of those letters. No, it was when he was sitting there in the courtroom, seeing Cassie and Jane and Mia and all of the testimony there, that this happened over and over again. It wasn't, to your point, to what Serena said earlier, this wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern of abuse that the prosecution put on and displayed, and then here we have a conviction. And so I do think that all of this is kind of running through Judge Arun Submarinian's mind as he's coming forth, putting down this sentence, because, I mean, it's really hard to ignore.
All right, Judge, this just came in. A significant sentence is required to deter. You say you're sorry and you won't do it again. After Ms. Ventura's civil lawsuit was filed, after the video was public, an investigation started, you had a brutal hotel night with Jane, punched her in the head. Serena, that is the key here. That is something we have talked about during the course of the day. It didn't deter him. There were significant episodes that came out after the investigation, after the apology. He was arrested with materials in his hotel room that would indicate a freak-off. I think we're looking here at maybe 5 to 7. I don't know yet. What can happen any second, but I think we're looking at significant prison time here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the judge makes an incredible note that, you know, you had the chance to deter. You were not deterred. You were given an opportunity over and over again, specifically during the investigation, and you can't be stopped. And if you can't be stopped, I'm going to have to be the one to stop you.
Yep. And by the way, the judge has considered his history. He said about the fact that, he became Sean Combs after his father died. That is especially impressive given the early violent death of your father and the trauma that must have left. So he's appreciating all this, but at the same time, he's hitting all the factors, and he's talking about the evidence that came out during the course of this trial. He just said, Jane says he told her, take this pill, go out there, bleep his bleep, bleep him, I don't care. The court is not convinced this would not happen again. The court has considered the programs.